Last week in the money line, I went 11-5 in my picks. The games I missed were the Colts, the Saints, the Browns, the Packers, and the Niners that officially put me at 11-5 on the year in the money line. I'm 174 and 82. Guess what? Last year for week 17 in the money line, I was, you guessed it, 174 and 82. Last week, week 17 in best bets, I went 2 for 5, though I did it my Brandon's World Merry Christmas Best Bet special, which of course featured Chiefs money line over the Pittsburgh Steelers, Travis Kelce to catch 25 yards, Russell Wilson to throw for 150 yards, the Ravens to cover 4.5 against Houston, as well as Derrick Henry to score a touchdown. In my five best bets for the rest of the games of the Week 17 NFL season, I did hit Baltimore -4.5. I also hit Cincinnati -3. I missed Seattle. I missed Indianapolis. And I missed Green Bay. Green Bay and Seattle were off, believe it or not, by a half a point. With that in mind, this year for best bets for week 17, I am 50 through 85. Last year, I was 56 of 84 with one push. So we are 6 games off the pace. We only bet 5 games per week. It's going to be the same thing as the wild card round. I'm not going to do 6 games in the wild card round. I'll put 5 games. I'll leave one game off the table for that. So we look to bounce back. We look to have a good week 18. Now, as you saw in my Week 17 NFL recap, the same thing is going to be sort of with my Week 18 NFL recap, where I'm not going to go through every game. Same thing with these picks here today. I'm not going to do as depth of an in-depth breakdown as I've done for like Week 1 through 16. A lot of these games really don't matter. To be honest with you, I was heavily debating, and my family that was in the room that listens to this podcast knows that I was heavily debating on even doing a week 18 best bets. I was even thinking about cheating a little bit because, as you guys know, my best bets, unless it's a special day, like holiday days, they're separate from my best bets. I don't count them. I can pick the money line in those games. Best bets, though, are simply picking against the spread. I was even thinking about cheating this week and doing money line picks for best bets because I think some of these spreads are really hard. I mean, I look at these games like I know Baltimore, they should destroy Cleveland. Are they going to cover 17 and a half? They should, but I don't know, right? Bengals, Pittsburgh. Is Mike Tomlin going to go all out and play his guys? I don't know. Eagles, Giants, no one should really be playing in that game unless Saquon Barkley is going for the rushing record. Commanders, Cowboys. The Commanders, they need to win to definitely maintain that number 6 seed. Will Dallas play inspired from Mike McCarthy and try to sweep the former Washington Redskins? Buffalo, we know, is resting, so I like New England. Jacksonville, Indy, who cares? Houston's resting. Can Will Levis, who's going to play for the Tennessee Titans, at least a half. Levis and Mason Rudolph are going to play in that game. Who knows what to expect? So, you get the theme here. Outside of Vikings Lions, which is obviously the money game for it all, we know this has been a weird year in the NFL. We're gonna have a 14 win team as a wild card, second place in the division, number 5 seed. And again, if what I think holds, which is Tampa Bay beating New Orleans and winning the NFC South, that number 5 seed, whether it's Minnesota, who Sam Darnold, I'm sorry, I still don't trust. He almost tried to throw the game away last week against the Packers, or it's the Detroit Lions defense, who's sorry to my great friend Jalen Sandvik. I know you're a big Detroit Lions fan, buddy, but your defense is like, as my cousin's defense would say, as it is in Madden, Swiss cheese right now. Tampa Bay's a very odd football team. That could be a tough matchup for Minnesota or Detroit in round one. do the Commanders, who essentially get to pick their opponent, do they want to go to the Rams, who seemingly, I believe if they lose and something else happens, they could fall to the four. But I think from the way I look at it right now, it's very likely the Rams are going to be the three. Commanders or Green Bay will be the six. Washington essentially gets a massage of their opponent. Will Green Bay play scoreboard sort of? Will Jordan Love start? Malik Willis finish? Will some of these teams like Philadelphia, who have nothing to play for, rest their starters? The Giants, who had the number one pick 2 weeks ago, they could finish at the number 10 pick. New England is playing Buffalo. If they win, Tennessee wins, the Browns lose. The Browns all of a sudden have the number one pick in the draft. That's a real possibility. Is the New England brass going to call down to Gerard Mayo at halftime and throw the game to ensure they have the number one pick? So there's a lot of scenarios here. Very tough to bet. Week 18's a crapshoot. We all know it. But without further ado, let's run through these games. And so I already alluded to it. The first game, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday on ABC. We got Chris Fowler, Dan Orlovsky, Lewis Riddick will be on the call. Browns at Ravens. The Ravens win this game. They will clinch the AFC North. They will clinch the number three seed. I absolutely believe they do. 17 and a half points is a large spread, but I would not be surprised if this game is, 40-7. I think the Ravens go out in the first half. They stick a fork in the Browns, who, as I mentioned on Tuesday, they now have restructured Deshaun Watson's contract. I think the Browns need a complete overhaul in their organization. I don't think I trust Andrew Berry as the general manager. Deshaun Watson should not be back at the quarterback position, in my opinion. I would consider trading away Myles Garrett, getting a multitude of first round picks, rebuilding with a younger defensive line, rebuilding with a better offensive line. I don't think Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers is the solution for the Browns. I would run back Jameis Winston one more year. At least it's a quarterback this fan base can believe in. Um, Bottom line is the Ravens are going to be the free seed. I have them winning. I don't think I can morally compass bet 17 and a half. It's week 18. I probably should. I think the Ravens cover that, but again, I'm just going to stay away. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh then is such an interesting game because here's the scenario. If the Baltimore Ravens defeat the Cleveland Browns, as I project, Baltimore will win the AFC North. If that happens, the Steelers will be the number five seed if they defeat the Cincinnati Bengals. They would host the Houston Texans, who, in my opinion, are reeling and will not win their first playoff game. If they lose, though, and the Chargers see that opportunity and the Chargers would defeat the Las Vegas Raiders, then the Pittsburgh Steelers would drop to the number six seed. They would then go to Baltimore for a rematch on the Saturday before Christmas against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, I think Houston's a tougher matchup. Cincinnati has been playing on a roll. I'm picking the Bengals just because I want to see it happen. I want more drama in week 18, basically. I don't want it to come down to the Broncos or the Dolphins because to be honest with you, if Denver somehow screws this up and Carson Wentz defeats them and the freaking Miami Dolphins get into the playoffs, they may be one of the most undeserving playoff teams of the last decade. I don't think the Dolphins are a very good football team. Their leading wide receiver this year is a freaking running back. All they do is dump down passes. Uh, Tua Tagovailoa is hurt. He's got an hip injury. I don't even know if he's going to play. I just want Cincinnati to win because I think Pittsburgh at Baltimore would be a fascinating wild card matchup. And again, I think Cincinnati at Buffalo would be way more of a fascinating 7 versus 2 matchup than Denver at Buffalo. So I'm picking the Bengals, call it hard overhead. Let's get to my Giants at Eagles because Ian Book should be starting for the Eagles in this game. I don't give two rips about it. No, I don't think Saquon Barkley should break the rushing record. Will I celebrate if he does it? Of course I will. They're my favorite football team. You guys know I bleed green, but let's face it, I don't want to risk any injury of number 26, who got himself back in the MVP conversation, in my opinion, though I don't think he will win it. I said I think I'll have to break the record to win it, and I would think Philly would have had to get the one seed. They're not even the one seed. That's going to go to Minnesota or Detroit. So I don't think it's worth it. I think it'd be even better if the Giants somehow won and again finished with the 10th pick in the draft after having the number one overall pick just a couple weeks ago. So honestly, if I was a betting man here, I take the Giants plus three, even in a meaningless Week 18 game. I'm not picking against my Eagles. So there's that. I think the Commanders, I think Jaden Daniels does get revenge on Dallas from that incredible game they played, week 12 back in DC. I think the Commanders do solidify the fact they will be the number six seed in the NFC playoff picture. I will say I think the Cowboys play hard here. Usually when teams get embarrassed the way they did at Philadelphia, teams bounce back, they play well the next week. I expect Cooper Rush to have a good game. I know the Commanders are actually the Cowboys' arch rival, not Philadelphia, for that Dallas fan base. And so they would want nothing more, in my opinion, than to send Washington to Philadelphia here in the wild card round. But I think the Commanders are just going to come in. Dan Quinn now going back to Dallas literally for the first time since the wild card game against the Packers a year ago. I think the Commanders are going to play inspired. They're going to beat Dallas. They're going to go 4-2 in the division, and have a chance, in my opinion, to play the Rams in round one. Let's get to my first bet of the day. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I don't understand how they are underdogs in this game because I think Buffalo is going to rest everybody. I'm going to pick New England to beat Buffalo at home, get an extra win here to go on this season, maybe save Gerard Mayo his job. I alluded to this on Tuesday. Man, would it be fascinating though if New England did get the number one pick? What do they decide to do? Because I think all of the options there, once they get the number one pick, are on the table. Do you trade Drake May for Shedeur Sanders? Do you keep Drake May? Do you trade the pick? Because New England needs a lot of pieces. They need a couple offensive linemen. They need three or four receivers. They need a back or two. They probably need an extra defensive lineman or two. So I don't know if Gerard Mayo is the right coach for New England, but I know Drake May has made chicken salad out of chicken, you know what. I think he plays well. Buffalo doesn't care. They're locked into the two seed. Give me New England. Jags at Colts. Honestly, who cares? Shane Steichen, though, may be coaching for his job. There's always one job a year that we are floored when it comes open. It feels like in the National Football League. I think this year maybe Indianapolis. And I was a big Shane Steichen defender when he went to the Colts. You guys know he was obviously the offensive coordinator for Philadelphia 2 years ago. I loved the work he did with not only Justin Herbert when he was with the Chargers, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, but even Gardner Minshew last year in Indianapolis. He sort of built his reputation around being an offensive guru. Yet he can't fix Anthony Richardson, and there's apparently no accountability for the Colts. He's beefing with the media. He's even beefing with my boy Pat McAfee. So very strange around the Colts organization. I think Jacksonville will try to improve their draft positioning. I don't know what they're going to do with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. Again, you feel like in Jacksonville you have the coach and right quarterback combination, but for whatever reason it's not winning. It feels like that relationship has sort of been broken. To me, it felt like even 6 weeks ago, Peterson lost the locker room, yet they beaten Tennessee twice to improve their draft positioning here over the past 3 weeks. So, I don't know what to say about Jacksonville or Indianapolis, quite frankly. I'll take the Colts to win just because they're at home. I do like Houston. Tennessee -1.5 against a resting Houston team. I think Tennessee gets their victory. And I think that this will ensure the Cleveland Browns have the number one pick in the 2025 NFL draft, which again to me means you put all options on the table, which include picking Shador Sanders, trading the pick, trading Myles Garrett for extra picks, firing Andrew Berry, firing Kevin Stefanski. All options on the table here. I don't think Will Levis should be back for Tennessee, but who knows what's going on there. That franchise needs a whole lot of work. All they have is wide receivers. That's it. But I think Houston rests their guys here. They're already locked into the 4 seed. I'll pick Tennessee to win. Once again, I'll pick Green Bay to beat Chicago. They may be scoreboard watching here, which is why I won't bet the game, right? Um, you know, obviously, if Washington gets up on Dallas early, Green Bay knows they're locked into the 7th seed. They may pull some of their guys. Caleb Williams may have a chance to backdoor cover. What a disappointing season for the Bears. When I went into this season, I thought this Week 18 matchup between Bears and Packers had a chance to potentially decide the last wild card slot in the NFC. And yet here we are. The Bears have not won a game since starting out 4-2 in week freaking 6. Seven, or excuse me, 11 losses in a row potentially to end the season. It all started with that Hail Mary play in DC where they had the Commanders beat. You never know if they beat the Commanders. What does that trajectory for the Bears look like for the rest of the season? Is Matt Eberflus still coaching in Chicago? We don't know. Caleb Williams has only thrown 6 interceptions. I think he needs an offensive coach. I think the talent is there. They just need a real leader and a guy to show Caleb Williams the way. Don't forget how much Peyton Manning struggled as a rookie. Could you imagine, him in this day and age as a rookie in the NFL? He'd be killed by social media criticism. Everybody wants to say Jaden Daniels is better and Bo Nix is better and Drake May is better. And while they have had better rookie seasons, I am still holding out hope on Caleb Williams for the long term. Okay, I like Tampa. I'm taking a minus 13 and a half. I don't believe in the Darren Rizzi story for the Saints anymore. The Saints are just a god awful franchise who are going to have a new coach, and that coach is going to have to sell his arse off because I don't know the direction of this franchise because they have old aging players. They don't have a lot of young stars, and they don't have the future of quarterback, and they're about 80 million over the cap. This team needs about a 1 to 2 year cultural reset. They tried to transition from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen. It just did not work. This team needs a total teardown. I think Baker Mayfield wakes up feeling dangerous, whatever the hell that means. Tampa Bay clinches the number 4 seed in the NFC. They're playing at the same time. Carolina, they got beat up by Tampa. I think Atlanta and Michael Penix is a very good game here for the Falcons. I don't know if they cover 7.5. They probably will, though. Again, Bryce Young has played really good, even in the loss last week to Tampa. Bryce Young, I thought, played pretty decently. Even though the score was lopsided. Um, this is a Carolina team who I think even is going to finish, 4-13, or even if they beat Atlanta here at 5-12. That to me, it's like we got some optimism here because we have a really good offensive coach. We're going to get Bryce Young one more year at the quarterback position. Our defense is not the worst defense in the world. We just need to start sustaining drives. And, we took Kansas City to the brink. We took Tampa to the brink. We took Philadelphia to the brink. Now, to me, they just need to build on it, get some offensive pieces, probably buy some offensive linemen in free agency, draft some wide receivers, draft some tight ends, maybe go out and get a better pass rush outside of Javion Clowney. Um, this is a Carolina team who I'm not going to say is going to be playoff bound next year, but I think they're going in the right direction. And for Atlanta, the future is bright with Michael Penix. I don't know if Raheem Morris is the right coach for the job. Zach Robinson and his offense, Penix has played well in it. Maybe Zach Robinson is the head coach of the future along with offensive coordinator. But I do like what I've seen out of Atlanta for the future, at least in Penix. I'll take Denver. Carson Wentz playing for Kansas City. I think Kansas City is going to do their division rival a solid here. Let them get into the postseason. I think Denver covers 9.5 because, quite frankly, if they met again, I think Kansas City would be more afraid of Cincinnati than they would be of Denver. Bo Nix, I think, is going to have a bounce back game. I think Denver, quite frankly, beats up on the Chiefs early here. They win it by about a couple of touchdowns. I would love it if my bet here does not hit, if it's close. As I've already alluded to, I want drama in week 18. I think it's the best part about week 18 is the drama in the 425 window when we see who makes the playoffs and who doesn't. But I will take Denver here to win. Now, assuming Pittsburgh loses to Cincinnati here, I'll take the Chargers over the Raiders to get that number 5 seed to go to Houston. I think the Raiders have done enough winning to screw up their draft position. But I will say, if, Pittsburgh does defeat Cincinnati and they are locked into the 5 seed, maybe the Chargers less than what the Raiders screw up their draft positioning even more. Rams, Sean McVay said he's leaning into resting his starter, so I like Seattle there. Again, Seahawks fans, I'm sorry to tell you this, but at best, and that's when Brock Purdy isn't playing pretty good football. You have the third best quarterback in your division, in my opinion. You made a good run. I tried to call you frauds. Then I told you you weren't frauds. Then you turned back into frauds, in my opinion. You kind of gave this division away to the Rams. That incredible throw by Stafford or Robinson in that overtime game in Seattle, all but essentially sealed the division for the Rams at that point. You got to move on from Geno Smith. You're going to win this game. You're going to get to what, 8-9 this year, kind of where I had Seattle. I said between 7-8 wins, 7-10, 8-9. It is literally the definition of average. Arizona, I think, is going to beat San Francisco because I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to play. I'll take Arizona minus 4.5 as my last bet. The Dolphins will beat the Jets. I don't know what's going on with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Who knows if he's going to play, if Tyrod Taylor's going to get any action. What's going on in Miami? Week 18 jumble mess. Miami needs to win more, so I'll just pick them. Obviously, there'll be scoreboard watching here and hoping Denver can slip up against Kansas City so they can get into the postseason. And then we get to game 272. The Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions in Ford Field to determine not only the number one seed in the NFC, not only the NFC North champion, but who will then go on the road to either potentially Tampa Bay, Atlanta, or even the Rams are involved. Though Tampa Bay is the way more favorite. And again, both of these teams will know who they will go on the road to if they lose this game once this game kicks off. That will all be determined essentially in the 1 o'clock window. Listen, the Lions defense is not very good. I think Aaron Glenn has to stop playing man coverage. I think he has to go back to what they were doing a couple of years ago, which was playing a ton of zone coverage because the Lions defense is beat all to hell and they don't have the personnel anymore to play man coverage. And Sam Darnold, if the Minnesota Vikings finish 15-2 and win the NFC North and get that number one seed, Sam Darnold should be considered, in my opinion, the MVP favorite in the National Football League because I had the Vikings winning 7 games this year. Their over under was 6.5. I took the over. I thought the Vikings were going to be the best fourth place team in football. I thought this division was going to be an absolute dogfight. It turned out it was, but not between Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago, between Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota. And I said, Sam Darnold with that coach, Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, that offensive line who they lost their left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, earlier in the season. I said he could have a Baker Mayfield or a Geno Smith-esque turnaround this year. He's done all that and more. And the Vikings defense to me is the story because their defense was blitzing people early in the year, catching people by surprise, and they are a top 10 unit in the NFL. Something I did not think they could do. The Lions, meanwhile, everybody and their mother, including me, entering this season, had them as maybe co-favorites to win the Super Bowl. I had them finishing as the number one seed in the NFC at 14-3. They obviously would have to go 15-2 to do so, which is astounding. But without David Montgomery, we mentioned the injuries on the defense side of the ball. Jared Goff is going to have to be very good, great, excellent. Ben Johnson could be potentially, if the Lions lose this game, his last home game in Ford Field. He's going to have to put everything on the line here. I do think the grit of Dan Campbell, the Lions will figure out a way to win this game. I don't want to bet it. I just want to watch it. It's going to be a hell of a Sunday night game. As my partner championship rings, Josh Unger would say, grab your favorite seat on the couch, grab your popcorn. This one's going to be a show. Lions win, and they get the number one seed. So my picks: Ravens, Bengals, Eagles, Commanders, Patriots, Colts, Titans, Packers, Bucks, Falcons, Broncos, Chargers, Seahawks, Cardinals, Dolphins, Lions. My 5 best bets for week 18 and the final week of the 2024 NFL regular season are: I like New England plus 2.5. I think Buffalo is resting. I'll take New England to win that game. I'll also take Tennessee minus 1.5 to defeat a resting Houston Texans team. That means the Browns have the number one pick in the 2025 NFL draft. I'll also take Tampa to officially win the NFC South by covering 13.5 against New Orleans. Denver will go into a playoff spot by covering 9.5 against a resting Kansas City team. And then Arizona playing for pride against potentially a backup San Francisco team. They cover 4.5. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.